All right, so I'm sorry I can't be here for the last half hour of class, but I wanted to provide for you a walkthrough of the assignment. And since this is going to be a reoccurring assignment throughout the year, it's really important that I make sure that you understand what's going on, the first time around. This is the current event, otherwise known as the rhetorical précis assignment. I will almost always refer to it as current event. But this is an assignment that will be happening every other week. So um, the reason that we do this, and that's what this first part kind of discusses, is that you need to be aware, everyone should be aware of what's going on in the world around them. And I don't just mean like politically, I also mean like what's happening in other countries, what's happening in the state next to us. And I find that oftentimes, even adults don't really go beyond their own little bubble. Very similar to what Brooks is concerned about, that we don't face difficult things, and so we don't want to talk about it. And if we don't talk about it, we don't come up with solutions or ways to converse about it. So we're going to be doing the current events so that you can become more knowledgeable, more thoughtful about the world around you, and participate in a conversation with anyone. The other reason, if that's not enough, if you don't care to develop yourself and develop the people around you, well, then let me tell you, the better you'll do on the AP test, the more you know about what's going on in the world around you. So you'll be able to handle any question that is asked of you by anyone, whether it's me, the test, or anyone. You'll be able to articulate yourself better the more information and the more ideas you have. So that's why. Um, like I said, we'll be doing this every other week, so that ends up coming to about 14 articles throughout the year, because we don't do them on short weeks, et cetera, et cetera. You will find sources from reputable, or you'll find articles from reputable news sources. So this isn't news blogs. I want you to avoid those places simply because they are typically not edited. You want to go to a reputable source that has at least gone through some type of vetting. Also, more importantly even, is I want you to go beyond what your political standing is and look at news articles from a variety of places. So what that means is that if you find yourself as a little bit more of a liberal, then I would encourage you to every once in a while dip your toe into the news articles that come from more conservative places. And vice versa. If you're a little more conservative, then I expect you to go beyond your own standing and look to see how things are articulated elsewhere. Because Brooks would be very upset with us if we just stayed stagnant and was comfortable with what the people around us that agreed with us, what they said. And this is also true of whether or not the news article or the news source is international, because they have much different concerns or ways of thinking about things than we do. For example, last year when there was the things going on in Ferguson, and even this year, that in America, the conversation revolved around trust of the government, police brutality, race relations. That permeated the news sources. But internationally, it was simply seen as a riot in the United States. There's a lack of control in this area, and it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal, even though it literally rocked the world of some of the states that it was happening in. And it's changed political landscape in America. So to stay where you are comfortable is not allowing yourself to get that marketplace of ideas that we talked about. You want to know what more people are thinking, and you'd be doing yourself a huge disservice by only focusing on one view. So, you cannot cover sports teams like how are the Vikings going to do this year? Look at the new running back over on the Packers. You cannot do that. You also cannot do celebrity news because I feel like you get enough of that already. It's everywhere. Also, no books, movies, or music reviews. That's not going to help you become a more knowledgeable world citizen. However, if there is a legitimate news source that discusses something about this, then that's okay. Like, for example, if there is something that's involving a celebrity and it's legitimate news, I don't want you to cover the spat between Miley Cyrus and, oh my God, I forgot her name. Whoever the other woman, I don't care about spats between celebrities, but if Angelina Jolie went internationally and spoke on how countries can support developing countries, that would be a completely different article. So if they just happen to be part of that, like if a news team, or excuse me, if a sports or if an athlete is part of the larger news, that's fine. So when Chris Cluey came out and had a political statement about gay marriage a couple years ago, that's legitimate news because it's not about Chris Cluey and how well he did as a kicker on the Vikings. So that's what that means. That's what that means, like no sports teams, books, movies. Obviously, there's caveats to that if it's legitimate news. Now, also, try to choose things that are relevant and timely. Don't do like a run-of-the-mill police report. What that means is that there's a lot of articles, especially more local news, that says Friday night police arrested such and such for such and such, and literally that's it. Or police are looking for, you know, the vandal that did this to somebody's garage. If it's not a longer article, then I really wouldn't address it. Like I wouldn't look at it. And kind of back on this idea of like what the heck a reputable news source is, I have listed further down, you know, some really good sources to start. Okay, that and I've labeled them for you in case you were unfamiliar with this at all. So like here are the more liberal newspapers, and here are the more conservative ones. The only ones that I might even say be careful of is that the Drudge Report, and this isn't like be careful of it, but oftentimes it just redirects to something else. So Drudge Report will say, hey, look at this article somewhere else. And so technically you're not actually getting it from the Drudge Report. You might be getting it from like Fox News. Or the Drudge Report also links to things like on BBC. So just keep in mind. So all of these are legitimate news sources for you to look at. And these are more international or less biased sources, and they've been confirmed as less biased by outside bias, like assessors, I guess you'd call them. So Associated Press, and you'll find Associated Press used by like Huffington Post or Fox News because they wrote an article and they just happened, and the Huffington Post wanted to publish it, so that's fine. If you go to Associated Press's website itself, that material is typically unbiased. Now, that's not to say that if it is published on Huffington Post, that it will be biased. It's just saying Huffington Post says, look we totally agree with this. They're not going to publish something that they disagree with. So if Associated Press is publishing something that they like, then they're going to publish it too. Reuters is really good. BBC, I highly encourage you all to get familiar with. It's a great source. BBC America is really beneficial. It's no bias in terms of political bias. Christian Science Monitor is pretty good, and even though it does say Christian Science in it, that is something that fell by the wayside within the last, like at the turn of the century almost. Well, I'm sorry, around 1950s. Al Jazeera America. Al Jazeera is typically a Middle East news source, and so this is the American. Now it has had accusations of them being little biased against America, but then other places say, no, they're just telling the truth and Americans don't like to hear it. So take that however it will, but it's a really good news source. PBS is also very good. The Week is pretty good as well. All of these are great sources for you to use. Now, that's not to say that these sources are bad. It's just that these sources, we need to be a little more critical of what is it presenting to us, what is it trying to convince us of. I mean, think about SMIC. Like, the newspapers will try to convince you of something. So, use these pages to your benefit about where to find sources. And if you've never heard of one of these news sources, then maybe you should go visit it, right? So if you've never heard of The Nation, maybe you should go see there and see what's on the front page. If you've never heard of the Washington Times, you should go there and see what's on the front page. You have to then you're going to print out and annotate / highlighting for points. I'm going to collect your article every other Friday. Your response will be typed on a separate sheet of paper. So really you're handing in like two things, but you're going to staple them together. And depending on what's going on, this assignment will be scored up to 10 points sometimes. Sometimes it's going to be treated as a checked-in assignment, so it'll be less than that. Doesn't matter. You are going to be required to practice your writing, your annotating, and your analysis skills on this assignment. This is a hugely beneficial assignment, no matter how you look at it, because you're going to be practicing every other week how to do concise, clear writing. You're going to practice your annotation so that you know how to do it better, so that it becomes more quick for you, and then you're going to practice that analysis skills. So your response then, on those Fridays, we have a Socratic seminar. So the day that you complete this rhetorical analysis, or excuse me, the day that you complete the current event or the rhetorical précis, you've got your article annotated and highlighted, and you've got your analysis. You've got your précis. Then you bring those both to class, and we do a seminar. We do a Socratic seminar. You can obviously have them out on your desk, those two pieces, the article that's highlighted and the précis itself. And it's not until after the conversation that I'm going to collect it. So you really, I know that some of us are having printer problems and they share with me on Google Docs, which is fine, but you really need to have the printout of the article and your précis on those Fridays, okay? Because if you don't, then when people ask you, like, where did this source come from, or what did you see any bias in it, you're not going to be able to answer the question. So you need to make sure that it is printed out. So to summarize, every other Friday, you are going to have completed throughout the week, you're going to have completed a current event assignment. You're going to print out the article and annotate it. Then you are going to complete the rhetorical précis, and you're going to bring both of those items to class so that you can participate in the Socratic seminar. And you get points for the Socratic seminar for participating, and obviously this assignment has points associated with it as well. And so that is the big deal that's going on here. That's just the general overview of what this assignment is. All right. So, and this would be one of those times that for those of you that downloaded the Kami, the PDF annotator, this would be an assignment that you could start practicing with that. So that if you want to print out your news article as a PDF, which is always an option, just go to print and then your printer you choose PDF. Then you can upload it into Kami in that extension, and then you can start annotating it. So you definitely need to be able to you definitely need to have the annotated article with you. So that is the general presentation or preview of what this assignment is. The next video or videos, depending on how long these go, will be a step-by-step to explain to you like what these steps are, and then it'll continue and walk you through the example that's provided for you. So, thank you. This is just the general overview.